Limbo is a game that is impossible to forget. Its haunting aesthetic, eerie sound design and challenging gameplay mechanics work together to create an experience that is both beautiful and unsettling. But Limbo is more than just a game. It is an exploration of the human condition, a journey through the depths of purgatory and a meditation on the meaning of life and death. At its core, Limbo is a 2D puzzle platformer game developed by Playdead and released in 2010. Its minimalistic approach to storytelling with no context or dialogue leaves the player to interpret the game events and story for themselves. The player controls a nameless boy who has been trapped in the mysterious and dangerous world of Limbo. The game is set in a monochromatic, black and white world, with the only color coming from his boy's glowing eyes and occasional environmental objects. The game is divided into several chapters, each with its own distinct environment and set of obstacles to overcome. The puzzles in each chapter are physics-based, requiring the player to manipulate objects in the environment to progress. For example, the player might need to push or pull boxes, use levers or switches, or interact with gravity in unique ways. Throughout the game, the player will encounter various obstacles and enemies, such as mindless zombie-like people, deadly spiders, and environmental hazards like spikes and falling objects. The player must use their wits and reflexes to navigate the environment and solve the puzzles while avoiding these dangers. The ending of Limbo is open to interpretation. After the last puzzle, the boy crashes through a window, landing in the forest like in the very start of the game. After a small walk, he encounters a mysterious girl sitting under a treehouse. The boy hesitates to approach the figure, and the game ends with the screen going black. The game's opening sequence features the boy waking up in the middle of the forest. At this point, we have to look at the title of the game, Limbos. Commonly known as Limbo, in Catholic theology refers to a place where children's souls are located, who are or were excluded from heaven and the eternal vision of God, through no fault of their own. So the world Limbo plays in could be seen as the edge of hell, a state of remoteness from God. The developers were very restrained with explanations and summarized the story like this. Uncertain of his sister's fate, a young boy enters Limbo. With this information, we can be sure that the girl the boy meets at the end must be his sister. The story is a purgatory for the boy, who must overcome various obstacles and challenges to reach his goal of finding his sister and maybe even reaching heaven. The idea of purgatory is reinforced throughout the game, with the boy facing his fears and confronting the consequences of his actions. For instance, the spider-like creatures that the boy encounters multiple times throughout the game could be interpreted as a symbol of his fear of death. The city section of the game, which is overrun by mindless zombie-like people, could be seen as a representation of the boy's fear of being alone or isolated. But why is the boy in Limbo? And why does he want to find his sister? One possible interpretation is that the boy died, falling from the treehouse he and his sister meet at the end. When his family then tried to drive him to the hospital as quickly as possible, they crashed into a tree, in which the boy flew out the windshield and his sister lost her life in a tragic ending too. Which would explain the end in which the boy flies through the glass in slow motion, later waking up in the same forest again. The boy died before he could find out about his sister's death, for which he could even be partly to blame, so he's searching for an answer, leaving him trapped in Limbo as a lost soul, making him overcome the challenges of the edge of hell. He must find out how his sister died and reunite with her before he can move on to heaven. The boy's glowing eyes could be seen as a symbol of his lost status, while his sister's absence from the game could be interpreted as a representation of her already being in heaven. There are several points to support this thesis. The last level of the game plays very much with physics. You are thrown back and forth, flying through the air and have little control over yourself, and end up crashing into the glass. This could reflect the car accident, and the multiple rollovers of the car in which the boy and his sister died. Also, the black screen at the end of the game shows two swarms of flies flying over the places where the boy and the sister were standing before. The swarms of flies can be seen as a symbol of death, which supports the thesis that both characters have died and are now finally together again, and have found redemption. If you take a little more liberty to the story, you could also claim that the accident ultimately is to blame for the boy ending up in Limbo. Maybe the car accident at the treehouse was an accident that could have easily been avoided if the boy had been a little more careful. This way, he would not have had to be rushed to the hospital, and it would not have to come to the car accident and thus the death of his sister and possibly even his entire family. For this reason, he ends up in Limbo and has to go through all his fears and dangers again, only to be reunited with his sister at the end and escape hell. The individual moments of light also contribute to the thesis. Even when he is in Limbo, there are always glimmers of hope in the distance, recognizable as glimmers of light from above or in the background. His sister is also accompanied by light in both scenes where the boy meets her, indicating that she is apparently already in heaven. Moreover, these loss of control maggots or worms react very aggressively to the incidence of light, which could mean that the creatures and temptations of hell cannot withstand the power of heaven and the light of God. In conclusion, the game Limbo provides an intense and emotional journey for players, exploring the themes of death, purgatory, and redemption. The symbolism throughout the game hints at the idea that the boy is in limbo as a lost soul, searching for his sister and seeking redemption for his own actions. The challenges he faces along the way represent his fears and the consequences of his choices. The glimmers of light in the game offer hope and could be interpreted as a representation of heaven, while the creatures of hell cannot withstand the power of light. Limbo raises philosophical questions about life, death, and the afterlife, inviting players to ponder the meaning of existence and the choices they make in life. It reminds us that our actions have consequences and that redemption is always possible, even in the afterlife. The game's haunting and melancholic atmosphere leaves a lasting impression on players, prompting them to reflect on their own lives and the way they chose to live. Ultimately, Limbo invites us to consider what awaits us beyond this life, and to strive for a life well lived, full of compassion, courage, and forgiveness.